So, hey everyone, this is Christian from Customlytics, and I'm happy to be talking to you today. So thanks for tuning in. I think very exciting talk we'll have today. We will talk about why it's important to view every aspect of the mobile marketing kind of stack, and why you have to keep the bigger picture in mind. Let's start with a very brief round of introduction. So your host for today is myself on the left side. I'm Christian, and then I've brought Boris, who is not just somebody that I've worked with for a long time, but also I think a friend by now. And yeah, Boris, if you want to say a few words about yourself.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Boris. I'm the CEO of TRIQ. If you don't know TRIQ, then don't worry. We're still in a pre-beta phase. TRIQ is a revolutionary, truly dynamic training planner for triathletes. So if you're a triathlete, then please visit our webpage. If you're seeking for jobs as well, it's triq.ai. I've been an entrepreneur for a pretty long time, like 20 past years, basically, and founded, co-founded 5 companies in this time, from which is a fintech unicorn, and the other my past company I was involved in was the shopping app CodeCheck. You might know. And Christian, as you know, I'm still very passionate about marketing that leads to sustainable growth.
Nice.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for joining, Boris. Thanks for taking the time. Then, yeah, just a very brief words on myself. So I'm Christian. I'm one of the 2 co-founders of the company called Customlytics. We are a small ad marketing consulting firm focusing on the same topic like we're talking about today. So all aspects of mobile marketing, really. We have 2 offices by now because we've acquired another company this year. Around 30 employees as we are speaking, and yeah, as I said, what we do is we have apps, being successful, focusing on every aspect of the stack, getting very much on the technical side at times. So we have companies setting up the attribution tracking, we have companies setting up the CRM systems, but also more traditional marketing topics like app store optimization and campaign management, all of which we will touch on today. So I'm super excited for the talk, actually. So let's get started right away, and I will have to shuffle around the slides a bit. So we will have slides every now and then. Boris, again, thanks for joining. And we're talking today about why it's so important for marketers to follow a full stack approach when it comes to mobile marketing. So really every aspect from app store optimization to paid user acquisition to CRM and all of that. And before we get to the main agenda, actually, I think I have a little bit of a warm-up question for you. So as you've already said, you've worked on different businesses and different apps already. If there would be one thing that you wish you would have known before starting in the mobile marketing space or like on app marketing, what would that be?
Well, I probably would have written less or did less planning, because what I realized in the past years, it's a bit like Mike Tyson said. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in your face, right? And I still think a strategy is necessary, a marketing plan as well, but it should probably fit on 1 or 2 pages. Because you will run a lot of experiments. You will learn a lot during that different phases of an app life cycle, and you will adapt all the time. So keep it simple.
All right, thanks for that. I think great opening words. So maybe we start from the beginning here, really, and the question here would be for you both. So how do you see the mobile advertising industry today? What is the the status quo that you see? What are people doing?
Well, I think there is probably still a huge focus, or a very strong focus, on paid user acquisition, which of course is totally okay, but I just think, and I'm trained to actually have a more holistic approach on marketing, net marketing in general, and that might be missing sometimes. So, in my point of view, one shouldn't only focus on user acquisition or paid user acquisition, but as well on kind of building your own channels, for example, or on your app store, right? App store organization is a very important topic. And then, of course, it's all about engaging users, about keeping them, and their strong or great CRM strategy comes to place. And after all, it's about understanding your audience, right? So that's actually how you improve your ROI.
Okay, very interesting. So what you say is essentially that it's not enough, well, maybe it never was, but it's definitely not enough anymore to just focus on a specific area in mobile marketing. So rather than that, really full stack, all the different aspects, at least thinking about all of them. Okay. I think moving on a bit to the next topic, and now I also have to find the slide share again. There we go. That was silky smooth. Moving on to the next topic, which is App Store optimization. So maybe a little bit of a background. Both we started working together, I think, in probably beginning of 2017, when you had already, when you were already working at CodeCheck and were kind of growing the business there, and you were the CEO at the time. And I remember that one of the first things that we did together was actually working on the App Store optimization part. We will talk about this in a bit of greater detail now. And from a structure perspective, how I will kind of keep it is always that I will say a few words on the introduction side, and then you can give us your like expertise and your learnings on the topic. So App Store optimization in general, for just a little refresher for the audience, we pursue two main goals. One of them being discoverability, which is essentially your app being found on the store. This is the part where you can also generate additional installs by ranking for the right keywords and having the right appearance in the store. Then the second main goal is the conversion rate, which is essentially the conversion rate from people visiting your App Store page to people downloading your app, where it is primarily about fulfilling the expectations of the user, which, well, essentially means that it's typically the visual aspects and how the app kind of looks and feels. And the question that's kind of resulting from this is that how do you treat those topics in your ASO work? How do you see them? Do you think that there's one that's more important, or is there one that you would focus on? How do you see that?
You mentioned two goals, but in my point of view, I have actually just one goal, and this is high quality downloads, right? I want to bring the right people into the app. And therefore I see there are huge synergies between like visibility and conversion rate. So if you already bring the right people into your app store, so if you choose the right keywords, the right wording, then it's just more likely that they convert and that you can keep them. So I would as well have here a more holistic view on the whole topic.
Okay. Then maybe moving on a bit to another very important factor for App Store optimization, which is the App Store ratings. How do you approach these in your work? So kind of apart from all the other factors, just the App Store ratings and reviews, what have you done in the past to kind of improve them? How important would you say it is for an app to have like good ratings and reviews? What do you think there?
Well, ratings obviously matter. I mean, you can. I always consider like the App Store a bit as a shopping window, or probably have a front door of a restaurant, right? I don't know if you know those ratings in New York, right? So good restaurants and bad restaurants, and if you want to eat the pizza, you rather choose the one with the A rating than the one with the F rating. So it matters. It's something that, you know, like is probably everybody sees it, and you should definitely try to keep that on a high level. In terms of techniques, I would say the best technique is always to have a great product. So that should be the main focus. But obviously, you will always have unhappy users and probably expect something different. I mean, I still recall lots of bad ratings coming from people who expect another language. Like, you know, we don't provide it in Russian, so they give us 1 point. But nobody ever said it's going to be in Russian. But you need to deal with those kind of things, right? So what you want to do when you have a user who's unhappy, you want to lead this person to the support and not to the App Store. And on the other hand, if you have a happy user, the user is engaged, then you want to lead this very user to the App Store. That's a bit how you want to. That's a bit from the strategic point of view, right? Of course, then it depends on your UX and how you implement that, but that should be kind of the thinking.
Okay, very, very useful, I think. So a short summary is have a great product, which is the hard part. And then you will not avoid negative reviews per se, but you can at least ask the happy users actively to get them to kind of speak out, which is, I think, a great piece of advice, because that's like I can echo that 100% from our work. Especially, I have the feeling in the Central European countries or geos. In the app stores, it's this usual scenario of, you know, the only users that are vocal are the ones that want to complain, and the happy users are typically the silent happy users. So we've consistently been seeing this with clients that just, you know, actively asking users in the moment when we think they are happy, just, you know, yields very nice outcomes. Great. Then I guess. Still in the context of ASO, my next question would be, how do you, or like, in which way do you think that the app store optimization efforts are connected to the to user acquisition? And I can remember this one campaign that we did together at CodeCheck in 2019 for the UK launch, which was already having quite good conversion rates there on the paid side of things. So I think in general the question is a bit like, how do you increase and even like an already good conversion rate?
Well, it's after all, it's all about creativity as well here, because we're living in this world of machines and automation and great data, but creativity is actually still hugely important, right? If you need to figure out how to advertise what you're doing, how to well, you know, put that into words, into great designs, great screenshots, and you know, on one hand, you know. And then you don't even know if it's works, so you need to test it afterwards. You have all those possibilities like A/B tests. So it's about creativity, measurement, and optimization, and this can, you know, basically be a circle. You know, can start again. I guess it never really stops, right? Because people will get tired of it as well, and they might want to change after a certain amount of time.
All right. Before we move on to my next kind of question, one note for the audience, which I kind of forgot in the beginning. So there will be actually time for Q&A after we finished our little chat. So please go ahead and use this the swap card question and chat features. You can post any question you like, and then in the end we will have some time to actually go through them, and you can ask Boris and of course myself whatever you like, and then we see if we answer. Cool. Kind of closing the topic of ASO and app store optimization. I think what we always say in client projects as well with partners is that yes, ASO is important, but it's not the this one secret sauce, the one and only thing that you need to do to make your app successful. So kind of on that account, what was the moment in time, or like what made you kind of realize that, oh yeah, we actually have to do more than ASO?
I would say we started with paid user acquisition very late, in the latest stage. So we because we had quite, I would say, in the time of CodeCheck, quite well working own channels. So no need actually for paid UA. But once we started, we of course once you start with that, you need to understand what you get. Right? You need to understand if you get good quality leads and where you get it. And that was actually the time when we implemented different kind of tools to understand the metrics. You want to know if you have a healthy ratio between acquisition cost and lifetime value. And that's basically the time that you need to have a serious attribution measurement tool, and that really helps. Right.
Okay. Great. Which kind of leads us on to, I guess, the next chapter of our talk, which is the attribution tracking tools. You've mentioned it now. I will again do a little introduction to the topic. Like as Boris said, the latest when you start with any paid advertising, that's also what we keep repeating, is that's a point in time when you need an attribution tracking tool, or MMP, like they call themselves, mobile measurement partners. For this, I think now I have to very smoothly slip in a little slide again. For this kind of, I think the short explanation why I need it is actually that it's the only way how you can tell where your app installs are coming from in a robust and like accurate way. That's why I'm also saying, or that's why we're also saying that when you start with paid advertising, that's actually the latest point that you can possibly start thinking about this. But paid advertising is not the only use case. Of course, it's the biggest one, probably, because you just have to know what the users are doing that you're purchasing on Google, or that you're purchasing on Facebook or wherever. But also, actually, there's a non-paid aspect to attribution tracking as well. And that's just that, for example, you also want to know how many users are installing from some button on your website, some App Store badges on your website, or just an app install badge that you put into your mail newsletter. So this is kind of the reason why you need it. And it's also kind of needed to measure if users are later in the app, are even doing what you want them to do, which is, in some cases, like with Boris' new app TRIQ, it's going to be a subscription. In some other cases, it's just a purchase in e-commerce cases. So measuring this kind of success moment is also what you need, or what you have to know in order to even judge your marketing campaigns, really. And then lastly, there's also this kind of fraud prevention kind of aspect. And now I will stop talking and actually have the next question for you both, which is, so you mentioned that attribution tracking is all important and stuff. At which part of the app life cycle would you say it's kind of it's really needed, or when is what's the point when you started actually implementing it?
Well, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I'm a data addict, so I love data like just chocolate candy. But I would really start super early. I mean, even now in our case, right? Before our beta test, we want to know who that actually works out, how that actually works out, how people react, are they engaged enough, what are the users who are engaged, and so you want to really understand your audience. And, I would say, well, you cannot start early enough, right? But even if you haven't started yet, and you should probably immediately. Yeah. But like I guess because we were kind of in this chat as well, what we actually need to have, but Christopher, you can say what do you think? What's the minimum that needs that you actually need to measure or to implement for successful tracking?
So I can give a short summary of like what's needed. We all, like in client projects, we always start with actually going there and collecting the requirements of the client business, because there are several relevant attribution tracking tools in the market, Adjust, AppsFlyer, Branch, and a couple more. They all have their own kind of strengths and weaknesses, which we kind of know and for which we have an internal benchmark. But understanding what the client needs and mapping this out to, you know, the strengths and weaknesses to the tools is kind of the first step. Then you get to the realization of, okay, I should go with this or that tool. And then at that point, it's really all about the integration. And this is also the make or break point, because if you don't get the integration right, then, well, whatever tool you choose will not be of much use for you, and the data will not be like accurate, or like lacking in general, in the worst case even. So what we do there is actually that we create something like a product ticket, which is an integration manual that we would give to the developers of the whatever given app, so that they know exactly which features to integrate. And then also, very importantly, we would come up with a what we always call a tracking concept, which I can also quickly show on a little slide here. That's what we call a tracking concept, which is essentially mapping out all the relevant steps in the funnel of the user flow, which are all in one column, and then one event can have different parameters. And this is how we would map it out and kind of prepare the integration of the attribution tracking tool. Because as I said, this is the make or break kind of point in time. And if you don't do that correctly, then you will have, well, problems later. And then often we get asked, okay, so what are the events that are important to track? And I think the easy answer there is that the bare minimum, or like always the most important event, is the main conversion. So going back to what we said before, that can be the subscription, that can be the purchase of whatever product, if it's e-commerce, you name it. But that alone will be, depending on how late it is in the conversion funnel, will be pretty hard for you to optimize your campaigns on. So what you also need is all the other relevant steps in the funnel, stuff like account was created, so registration, login, browsing products, making a search, I don't know, putting something to the basket, if we stick to an e-commerce example. That's all the steps that you want to track. And with that, you will have quite a good time then optimizing your campaigns, and also even just understanding what your customers are doing in the app. I think it's as basic as that, which kind of leads us on to the next question that I have for you, which is kind of already a bit kind of on the transition side to the next chapter. So Boris, what do you think companies are doing right that are successful in acquiring high quality users? You've talked about it before. What do you think is the common constant across companies that are, you know, good at acquiring high quality users for their business?
I would say it's all about knowing your audience again. So understanding the data, understanding the right channels, optimizing them. I mean, I can say now in our company data, which is, as I mentioned, pre-launch. Even there, you can start interviewing people. You can start doing your market research. You can you know, build buyer personas and already test, for example, on Facebook. So we're currently running a campaign to acquire beta testers. But I mean, that has actually two reasons. On one hand, we need the beta testers, of course, but on the other hand, we want to test the algorithm as well, you know, and want to learn more about the actual costs of the lead. Yeah. So even at that stage, you should start analyzing, optimizing, and again doing it again, and experimenting with different visuals. So it's really about about learning fast.
Yeah. Okay. I think a good vehicle to move over to the next chapter, which is actually paid advertising. So you already know the score. I will give a very brief introduction, for which there is, of course, if you already guessed it, also a slide. So the reason why paid advertising, well, has been and is also probably increasingly important for anybody that operates an app and wants to be successful with it, is that you are just competing with so many other apps that are all kind of begging for attention of the user. And the sad realization is that the time that users are spending on mobile is actually not increasing anymore. It has kind of, peaked out at the current level. It's actually kind of decreasing if you look at most recent studies. And that means that it will not be the case that you bring out your app and it's kind of super great and all of a sudden users spend 30 minutes in it every day and those 30 minutes are kind of added to the time that they spend on the phone. That's not going to be the case. Rather than that, you will be in competition with other apps that they're currently spending their time in, and you have to kind of get there and cut through the noise, and that typically is like paid advertising is a typical method to do exactly that. So the first question here would be for you, Boris. You've done a lot of paid advertising in the past for different apps. Which channel or strategy has kind of made the most difference for you, or what is there? Is there any preference? Do you have this like one channel where you go there and say, oh yeah, this is it? What's your take on this?
I would say in my opinion, there's still not much competition to the Facebook network when it comes to paid UA. But again, here it's as well. I mean, you can fail as well. So it's all about about optimizing. Even though these days, what I actually like, Facebook does already make a huge chunk of this work for you. So they optimize continuously and want to, of course, provide you with best quality of leads. So you stay there. I guess they do quite a good job. But I have to admit, I'm not a huge expert in that, because I was mainly dealing with Facebook and Google and some App Store campaigns. But probably Chris, I guess you have much more experience, and as well third-party platforms. It might be interesting to see your point of view on that.
So I guess our point of view, from the Customlytics perspective, where we do manage campaigns on many different channels these days for clients, including the usual like Facebook, Google, and the App Store search, to the new kids on the block like TikTok or Snapchat and those channels. I think I definitely wouldn't say that there's like this one channel to rule them all, and I also don't have a personal preference. I wouldn't even say that there is one single channel that has been the best and the one that you have to use for an extended period of time. But there have been trends for sure, and it's kind of important to be there when something new comes up. Going back to the story of how time that users spend on a smartphone every day is not increasing anymore. That also means if you translate it to where your ads are showing, I mean, your ads are like most of the apps that are used by those users, like TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, all of them display ads. And if there is a shift in attention because people stop using Facebook and start using TikTok, then your paid advertising strategy has to adapt to that, and you have to be on TikTok then to get the same level of attention like you did before. And I think that's the rule of thumb kind of thing that I would always say, is that you have to be where the attention of the user is. So monitor trends in the market, and when new platforms then you have to be there, because what I have seen happening over and over again with those channels is that, especially in the beginning, there's this gold rush of cheap prices, not a lot of people realizing that this channel exists for paid advertising yet, especially not the big agencies that are slow and have the big budgets, or like managing the big budgets. And that's the time when you want to be on this channel, because that's the time when you can get cheap users. I think that's simple as that. So much on the paid side. I'm very sure, or I know, Boris, that you have actually quite a lot of experience with other channels to generate users. So maybe you want to say a bit about that as well.
Yes, I think it's, well, I always I'm a big fan of building sustainable own channels, and invest into those kind of things. So having your own social media channels is definitely a great tool to kind of leverage your user acquisition. As well, we had extremely great experiences with PR. For example, with of course, depends very much on what your app is about, but that is something to test. I would say you can test influencer marketing. I'm still a big fan of as well of organic search, especially when you have a lot of content. That's something very sustainable. It's free downloads, right? And we're currently I'm working, for example, on the partnership marketing strategy, which can help as well. And if you have great partners, they can support you to a very long time. Probably even boost when you just start your app. So there are many ways to do so, but I think it's definitely to have a look on the different channels, basically.
Okay. I think probably also looking at the time, we have to maybe hurry up a bit. So one question that I still would like to put is, so you have been in a situation where you have been the kind of the person at the company that has started with the advertising in general, but also paid app advertising for the given app. What would be your advice for somebody doing just that, starting out with paid advertising? What would, if there is one that you can put, what would that be?
Well, again, I would definitely start with the Facebook network, and then let Facebook do the job for a certain amount of time. You can experiment with different audiences. You can even learn about your own audience, right? So that gives as well feedback. But you don't need to rush too much with changing your visuals or videos or whatever you're using or wording. So you should definitely be patient at the beginning, right? And as well, I would use App Store ads, of course, and experiment with Google ads, which is always a good idea. I mean, the network is big. That's about the plan as we have now currently on for TRIQ. But again, it's not about only acquisition or the acquisition cost. It's really about the quality of users. So you should have this under control, measure it, and improve it.
All right, then I think one of the last questions that I have on the advertising side is one that I think has always been a bit controversial, at least inside of my company. So that's the topic of influencer marketing. What is your, and I know that you've been doing it in the past. What's your opinion on it? How do you see influencer marketing? What would you say is important when people start with influencer marketing?
Well, I have a similar opinion on that, like you. But I would definitely at least try to measure the return on investment. It's not easy, especially when you deal with micro influencers. I mean, you can use tracking links and everything, but they might not use it, and then you run a campaign somewhere and you get 2 downloads and pay chunk of money, and so it's really frankly I haven't seen a huge impact of influencer marketing yet. But if someone's out there, please ping me who has a different opinion or who can support us. I would be happy to actually integrate it as well into our marketing campaigns, because especially I mean, we're focusing on triathlon and not talking about, you know, the regular Instagram influencers. And I think there it makes sense because you have the stars, you have the big names, but you have also very influential people who probably work in sports science or coaching people who have a certain standing, right? And you want to evolve them into your marketing, but it needs to be well thought, and there needs to be strategy behind it. And no, I don't know. Probably you have a different. I guess I know you have the same opinion, but please tell us a little bit more about your experience, Chris.
Yeah, I think. I would keep it at just saying that influencer marketing is, at least in our experience, is definitely not something that where the results will look great if you put the same attribution methods or like the same measurement to it, like to other more traditional, you know, banner ads or video ads. That's just not how it works. It's still worth to put tracking links wherever possible, like you said. So I don't know, Instagram slide ups, of course, you can put in a tracking link there. However, that will of course also only still capture just a small fraction of the traffic. So for us, bottom line is, I don't think I have a clear answer to it. It's just that it definitely doesn't work out if you put the same kind of attribution mechanics to it. It's a different story if you can do, if you're just starting out and you have a very constant kind of baseline, then you can apply some kind of baseline tracking to it, which also only really works if you don't do anything else. That is one way to kind of measure it. But again, just like hardcore performance, kind of last click, will not typically, I haven't seen it, will not look great. Moving on to
probably you're just too data driven, right? For that topic.
maybe that's the case. Talking about data driven, you've mentioned ROI before, and I know that we've also, when we've worked together at the CodeCheck campaigns, we have set up different channels together. So for the people in the audience, what kind of information or metric would you say is the one, or if there's several, then what are the ones to focus on in the context of paid advertising?
Well, it's for me, it's definitely lifetime value. I think that matters since it reflects everything. It reflects the acquisition cost, reflects the acquisition, the engagement, and the retention. Yeah. And you want to always compare that to your acquisition costs.
Yeah. All right. I think lifetime value is a very good keyword for the next and final chapter before we open up for questions to the audience, and that is retention, which is all about maximizing the lifetime value. Again, I will do a little introduction to the topic, and then we will have some more minutes to discuss. Wait for the slide. So I guess the people in the audience will probably have seen this graph before. So this is a very popular graph, which is essentially showing which percentage of users is still active after the moment of the app install. And what you see there is that essentially in the first, and I think that's the average across all Android apps, something like 2 years ago or something like this. I would have to look up the source. But yeah, this is the average across all apps. Of course, there's different models, and there's, I don't know, your travel app, which right now you're not using at all, but even without Corona, you would maybe use it once a quarter. And then there's your news app, or like your gaming app, which if you are really hooked, then you use it every day. But still, that's the average. And what you see here is that essentially most of the users are falling into inactivity rather rapidly after the app install. And the topic of retention or mobile CRM, which stands for customer relationship management, is really all about increasing, putting this curve a bit higher up, increasing the percentage of users that stay active with your product, with your app. So maybe starting off with the following question, Boris, when you apply this as part of your marketing tech stack, what kind of ultimate goal do you pursue with it, and what kind of other things that you consider for CRM?
Well, first of all, this graph always depresses me, right? So that's a bit the downside of working at an app company, but it's reality. And I guess kind of working on that and improving it just slightly has a huge impact. And what you actually want to do is you want to keep the users you've acquired.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess that should be the main focus of your team, to really work on that, to make users happy, and to do so, you need a profound understanding of their needs.
Yeah.
To understand what they want, what they expect from your product, in order to keep them engaged, and that means optimizing, get information, optimizing your user journeys, optimizing your product on a daily basis, and that should be the highest priority of your roadmap. Before you start implementing new features, or probably it's a feature that they wish, but it should definitely something very user centric, and I guess that's how you can deal with that, and don't get too depressive.
I would 100% true that. I would even go one step further. That's also something that I always say when I don't know, attend some client workshop, and then CRM is one of the topics that we talk about. Like today, after we've talked about 5 other topics in mobile marketing, is that actually CRM is also a booster for your paid activities actually. Reason being that as we've learned before, if you do paid advertising, your app installs are, well, they're just expensive. So you pay, I don't know, if you're in Germany, you're paying a couple of euro depending on the channel. And then you look at this graph, seeing that essentially, well, 4 out of 5 of those installs are inactive after 3 days. That means that if you can just increase and inactive also obviously in this case means that they don't make money for you, because in almost all apps activity correlates with money for the business or revenue for the business. So I would even say it's a booster for your paid activities, because if you can just increase that curve, increase the retention by 10% or so, that makes every euro that you put into marketing much more effective as well. And there are, I think, endless possibilities of how that can translate into a campaign. I guess most of into campaigns. I guess most of the people in the audience will know what I'm talking about, but I guess the most basic example of how that can work, or why CRM is important, is just your, I don't know, typical e-commerce app, let's say food delivery, like Delivery Hero, where you have paid a couple of euro for the app install, and the user has not placed an order for food yet, then that would be, well, wasted marketing money. And if you can then send a push notification, something, I don't know, 3 days in, knowing that the user didn't make the purchase yet because you track it with the data that the CRM tool gets. And if you can only, I don't know, generate an incremental 10% of orders from those people, that's going to be huge already for the business. So I guess that's just one example.
And probably something that just remind me of an experiment, or lots of experiments we did on onboarding, which is as well very interesting to focus on, because it can make a huge difference how you onboard people, right, or users. I remember, so we usually did, when we implemented new onboarding or new onboarding wordings or slides, We did this within an A/B experiment, and it's sometimes incredible when you implement something like which is more dynamic, or for example, this time was a questionnaire, so really asking people stuff, and that just gives people a different opinion of the app, because it at least seems that the feedback is valid. Of course, you need to validate the feedback to get it, but it already seems at this very point they appreciate it, right? And we saw an increase of 20% in user engagement, which is a slight change in onboarding. So that definitely is a good way of increasing as well, or making your user acquisition more valuable.
Yeah. No, I mean that's absolutely that's massive. 20% gain in marketing efficiency is, I guess, the red dream of every paid marketing person, I guess. So thanks a lot for sharing. Thanks a lot for sharing that. I think my next question is also kind of relating a bit to that, and how you have already explained with this onboarding, how CRM for mobile apps is also such an integral part of the product even, and the question that's resulting from it, and that's one that I've been asking myself quite a lot as well, is where do you see CRM for an app even kind of located in terms of the structure of a company? Would you say it's more of a marketing topic and hence should be handled by marketing people, or do you say it's more of a product topic and hence should be handled by the product people?
It's actually a very good question, and I'm feeling currently very privileged that I can do both, and that helps because in such a small team like we are currently, we're just 12 people here in Zurich and 8 people in Poland. So it's such a small group of people. You need to have the total overview, and I really appreciate to implement both things at the same time, because there are so many synergies between that. I mean, if you learn something about your acquired users, that might be very helpful for your product development as well. So where to place it? I plan to in our near future, when we of course need to grow and need to separate certain specialities, still keep it very close together. Probably even have one team for the growth marketing topics and product topics, or at least have a very close collaboration. I think that matters because I mean, both need insights. What I mentioned before, onboarding, is that product, is that marketing, or the different user journeys, communication to the users, sending out the right emails, sending out the right notifications at the right time, with the right content, right? Sometimes you need content coming from the back end, which is a total product topic, and how the email is structured, or the notification structure and design probably comes from marketing. I guess you cannot distinguish anymore these days.
Yeah, I think realistically we see the same. Like when I think about the companies that we work with, or in general companies where I know how they do the mobile CRM, I think we see the most successful companies doing it in an interdisciplinary way, like you've kind of explained, where it's a team consisting of marketing and product people. Because I think, especially with modern mobile CRM tools, where you can do a lot, and we're not just talking about push notifications anymore. Push notifications, for example, for me is a pretty clear marketing topic, at least how it's used in most times. maybe not rightfully, but that's a different topic. But with modern CRM tools and all the things they can do, and the in-app messages and A/B testing, like you said, I think you can just not draw the line anymore. And also between marketing and product. And also, I think what I always like to do is, step into the shoes of the customer and see how they would see it. And also there, it's like, if you do it right, then they will also not be able to distinguish it, in the sense that they will receive a useful push notification on some topic. They will not sit there and be like, oh, but like that's a very good marketing person must have done that. They will just perceive it as communication from the product and the brand, and that's like, that's impossible to distinguish, I think.
Absolutely. Sorry, one little thing. If you consider CRM as a personalization, because that customer relationship, right? Yeah. So if you consider it as a personalized experience, then it's something very integrated to the whole product topic. So you can go a little bit further. I mean, the push notification doesn't need necessarily to be come back, have a voucher or whatever. Yeah, it can give you meaningful information. Probably it's even easier with an email, but it can give you even meaningful information and build a relationship. Yeah, because especially when it comes to our product, which is a dynamic training plan, right? That reacts immediately to your needs. That doesn't matter if you have a different apartment or if you're sick or whatever. It always adjusts to your needs. That's something you need to explain. And I guess you definitely can create kind of a wow effect when you explain the right thing at the right time. So it's not about marketing, but it's about really building a relation to your customer.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Boris. We've been now talking for a solid 50 minutes, and I think we could probably go on for another 50 minutes. Maybe let's come to one closing question that I have for you, and then we open it up for questions from the audience, because I have seen that there are a couple actually. So we can maybe spend the last 5 minutes on those then. So closing question from my side, it's kind of almost the go-to question. I put it at any, like, when I have a talk with an interesting person like you, that's like always the last thing that I put is, you've done it several times. You have made apps successful a couple of times, and you've worked in, the mobile marketing sphere for quite some time. If you would have to give away one kind of secret ingredient of your success, or one kind of secret ingredient of how to be successful with mobile marketing, two people in the audience, what would that be?
Well, a big investor and who invests a lot into mobile companies told me once, the difference between successful and unsuccessful app is that the successful ones learn faster. And I can absolutely rely on that. So I think it's about being able to measure, to understanding your audience, and to run experiments at scale. I'm not talking about running one A/B test in every couple of months. I'm talking at scale. That means do it on a daily basis. Yeah. Test everything and learn and improve.
Yeah. All right, that's almost like the casual life hack. I guess applies to other areas as well. Very nice. Thanks so much, Boris. I will look into the Swapcard platform now, and maybe we can do 2 or 3 questions. I guess the most upvoted question I can see here is from Mariana, and the question goes, it's regarding this slide, the depressing one. It's regarding this slide, and the question goes, what do you do when you see this graph of people becoming inactive? How do you analyze why the users leave? And I know that you have an opinion on this, so I will give it to you, Boris.
Well, there are different ways, but I always say you can learn much more from the churns than from your actual engaged users, because they're just happy, like they like your product. So you definitely need to talk to the people who churn. You can reach them with surveys. So that's what you mentioned before, Christian. So you can run campaigns, for example, with to all inactive users. But you should definitely learn from them and understand why they left, and then you can start improving.
And I guess in the end, and that's kind of what I was targeting for a bit. I think in the end, it also comes just down to having the right data. It's essentially, you know, being able to even measure how the funnel looks like, what users are doing before they drop off. That's always like, I don't know, I've been in a lot of conversations where it's like almost this like mysterious thing happening where, oh, we have the app, and then at some point they are just leaving, but then nobody even tries to get to the bottom of it to understand on which screen, like what's the last screen that they visited before they left. And if you have, and that's like the typical funnel analysis, and if you have one screen or one action where, you know, you see the high dropouts, then there's probably a problem with this specific part of the user funnel, for which in turn you will need some kind of tool, some kind of analytics tool. Can be your mobile measurement tool, can be your CRM if it's like one of the ones that are good at analytics. So yeah, I think I would only add to that is you have to have the right data and kind of understand the user funnel with some product analytics tool, ideally. Cool. Then maybe one more question that I see here with 3 upvotes as well is, well, probably one for you, Boris. The question goes: do you have any advice on improving web-based subscription acquisition?
Web-based. I could tell you a lot about mobile subscription models. Web, but I suppose it's probably pretty much the same, right?
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know if I can give you just a general answer. If you from my mobile perspective, right, I always call it a paywall. So there's a lot of ways to actually improve and this will test your paywall or your pay site page on the website. And you can start with the wording. You can start with showing different subscription models. It's always good if you have, you know, different prices. That's good psychology as well. If you have higher prices, one thing I found very interesting is, for example, providing a lifetime subscription, because that's just from a psychological perspective, the rest seems a bit lower, right? The rest of the price seems a bit lower. You want to explain what people actually get, and you want to run experiments on that, right? So make your paywall definitely a place where you run experiments. You want to try out the different prices. And probably, and one last thing is you can ask the people at the right time. So that's very good as well. If you have, I don't know if this even exists in the web world, but you know that probably, Christian. But in mobile, you have the possibility to segment your users and you know, already kind of even build lookalike segments, right? That are much more likely to purchase, and that it can show your paywall at a different stage than to others where you probably need to explain first or let them try it out and bring them into a more engaged mode, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Which means I guess we can take one very last question before we get caught by James, which is the third most upvoted.
Pick us out.
The first most upvoted question, which was, and I think now it's gone because we're already over time. The question was, how can you channel user feedback so that negative feedback doesn't even reach the stores? And I think for that, wow, we even have a slide for that in our nice little conversation here. So what we have always seen, and I don't see anymore who put the question, but it doesn't matter. What we always have seen is to work out great is something like this, where you have the element that Boris mentioned before, which is you make up your mind about some point in the user funnel where you think that user is happy. Then you ask them, hey, are you satisfied with the app? If yes, then you can ask them to leave a positive review in which kind of message you can already prime that the review should be positive, and then send them to the store or even have it submitted in the app directly. And then to answer the question from the audience here, if the user says, no, I'm not happy with the app, then you don't send them to the stores. What you do is you ask them if they would like to tell you what to improve and leave the choice to them. If they say, no, they don't want to tell you, then you just, leave them crying bitterly but silently. But if they want to tell you what to improve, then you don't send it to the store, you send it to some feedback form, which in the easiest way of implementation can just be a mail to link, which triggers the mail client. In better implementations that we do for clients, it should be something like this, which is a feedback form right in the app. If you're using a CRM tool, that helps a lot because then you can set it up also via the CRM tool. But this is kind of the flow that I would always recommend because we have consistently seen how that improves the average ratings and also the quantity of positive reviews that you get by order of magnitude. So huge uplift. And I think that also means we're at the end or already over time. James, you're still with us? You want to end this?
Well, that was great, guys. That was an absolute odyssey, or I don't know, Lord of the Rings of saying of app growth. And yeah, really appreciate especially Boris coming and joining you, Christian, and it's great to get such a good overview like that. And yeah, not normally do a lot of sort of specialists. It's nice to see the full sweep of app marketing. And yeah, thank you very much, guys. Yeah, it was great.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot, Boris, for taking the time and joining.
Yeah, well, thank you both for having me.
All right.
It's a pleasure.
All right, and Christian, how can people sort of follow up with you guys? I don't know if we've got a link in the, maybe we'll add one in the, I don't think we do. I guess go to customlytics.com, right?
Exactly. So here's the shameless plug. Yeah, just go to customlytics.com. On all of the topics that we discussed today, we have actually written a little booklet, which is called the Mobile Developer Guide to the Galaxy. It's free. It's kind of well, not calling it charity, but it's a project close to our hearts. We've actually even invested into printing physical copies that we would have handed out if the App Promotion Summit could have happened physically. But you can download a free PDF version, and there's a ton of info on all the topics we discussed today: ASO, tracking, paid advertising, CRM, all of that. So that's customlytics.com, and then just go to the Mobile Developer Guide to the Galaxy. That's how it's called. Outside of that, many thanks for tuning in. James, thanks for organizing this. You're a legend, and thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.